Hello all. Well, today we need to do an update on the upcoming World War III. Let's go over to the board and look at some sad numbers. Well, let's start out what happened in Europe the last week was the NATO meeting. NATO decided to have a meeting to decide how to get the war with Russia going. So here's what they came up with. Okay, NATO, or the U.S., because that's what NATO is, most of NATO is the U.S., has approved a 2% rise in their funding. The way they're going to get that is that each country that belongs to NATO will have to spend 2% of their GDP, which will go directly into NATO. They've come up with a new idea. They're going to make another force, another military force called Spearhead. They will arm this force with 5,000 more soldiers. Now let's tell it like it is. What exactly is it that they're talking about? Well, of course, it's taxes. Everybody that belongs to NATO will have to pay more taxes to be protected against Russia. Russia's a threat to somebody? Really? This whole thing is just pathetic. When NATO finished their meeting, they came out in front of the office that they were holding their meeting in and got in front of a fighter jet which was parked on the lawn. This is just pure poking Russia in the eyes, both eyes, and in the stomach with a stick. They want war with Russia so severely. Let's go look at some more numbers. Here is a very small partial list of what the U.S. arms industry is selling around the world and what the other countries are spending buying all this military hardware, training, and parts and equipment and support from the U.S. Let's look at a few. U.S. sales. Saudi Arabia, $2 billion this year alone. Equipment, parts, training, blah, 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 blah. Canada, $225 million on radar for large aircraft, military aircraft, and parts and training and equipment upgrades. Turkey, $320 million on air-to-air missiles, ground-to-air missiles. Let's see, where are we? Missiles. Iraq, $500 million spending on equipment, parts, training, and helicopters, and other things. And most of that money will be coming, yes, from the U.S. citizens. Philippines, $61 million for aircraft, C-130 transport, and those aircraft can be used for military purposes such as grenade launching, missile launching, anything you can imagine. They're quite capable. That's just a small, tiny, a very small list. If the list was 200 feet long, we've got an inch of it. The list went on for page after page after page of U.S. selling military arms, training, equipment, and parts. One of the biggest sales was to Israel, as you'd expect. They were sold a huge quantities of Sidewinder missiles. Here in the U.S., in the state of California, right across the bay from San Francisco, there's a city called Oakland. Let's go see what happened there yesterday. This is called the Militarization Expo in Oakland, California. It happened on September the 4th. Who attended? Well, first of all, it was called Urban Shield. People that attended were defense contractors, law enforcement people, police, SWAT teams, and the arms trade industry. The Militarization Expo took place and is taking place until the 9th. So if you want to join the others on protesting over there, it's at the Marriott. So what they'll be doing there is they'll be buying weapons, they are training police in military tactics, they are selling police SWAT teams around the world military hardware there. Most of what they're doing there is being kept secret. So according to the folks at Marriott, they say they are not going to have this expo next year because of the they won't tell them what they're going to be doing there. Well, another thing that the war machine at an extreme, besides killing humans, is that they use up huge quantities of fossil fuel. Gasoline, diesel, petrochemicals, you name it, tires, fabrics, all being from the fossil fuel industry. In fact, over half of all fossil fuels on the planet are used by the military-industrial complex throughout the world. If we were to go to World War III, the fuel use would skyrocket. We would quickly run out, so the price would skyrocket, costing us a fortune in cost to run the military war, and the pollution, the CO2 count, would skyrocket throughout the planet as well, causing extreme runaway greenhouse effect, 900-degree temperatures, that kind of thing. It's so important to not let the military-industrial complex get away with what they're getting away with. We just have to start paying attention. And people that are afraid of things like Yellowstone or Ebola or any of those things, they're not going to compare to a world war. World war will kill billions of people, probably nuke the entire world and destroy any chance of us living like we do now, because most of the buildings will be destroyed and there isn't enough building material around the world to rebuild everything again. So this is a serious matter. This is just a tiny little pinprick of what's going on with the militarization of the world and the gathering of World War III. Military contract. They're licking their lips thinking of World War III, and it looks like it's going to start any time if we don't do something about it. You can't just sit there and do nothing. Protest Marriott. Don't go to Marriott hotels or motels anymore. Stop. If they ask you why you're canceling your stay with them, tell them the truth. Their militarization expo in Oakland. Doesn't matter, it's a corporation, so it doesn't matter where Marriott is, in what country, it's all one entity and needs to be treated as one. That's why we're so against the corporation, military-industrial complex of the U.S. It needs to be quelled, it needs to be shut down. We did it in the 60s during the Vietnam era. We can do it again. It takes everybody to get off their stupid phone, first of all. Stop spending 8.5 hours a day looking down at a small screen. Look up, study what's going on around the world, and do something. It's the money that makes everything. It's not how many people protest, it's where you spend your money. And I've said this a million times, stop spending it with corporations and start spending it with the local retailers and businesses, because the money stays in the community. Small businesses do not put money into military and in the military-industrial complex in any way. I don't know what to say. This is just getting completely out of hand, especially with the Russia thing. If we really think that we're going to have a sustainable war with Russia, is crazy. It will be a nuclear war. Russia has no choice. Now, one other thing is that the board is going to go through a remodel session. We're going to be remodeling the board. So until that remodel is complete, we won't be at the board much, but it shouldn't take that long. It's not that complicated. I appreciate all the comments from last time and the ups and the downs and the new subscriptions and the whole thing. It helps get the word out. And until next time.